What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldrige. Tonight I wanted to talk about Bally's 1955 Gayety. That's right. We've stumbled into 1955. So if you've been listening for a while, I've started kind of talking about these games in chronological order for Bally. And at a much later date, I'll be talking about United's bingos. For tonight, with Gayety, let's talk about the features. This is a single card bingo. There are no super cards. A single card bingo has 25 numbers arranged in a particular pattern. And there are 25 numbers on the playfield written below trap holes. So for each ball that you shoot, it'll land in one of these holes. If you get 3, 4, or 5 in a row as displayed on the backglass, not as displayed on the playfield, then you'll earn the replays indicated. In this case, the game has something called advancing odds. Advancing odds are provided to you with each coin that you put in. You have a chance at advancing your odds from 4 replays for a 3 in a row, all the way up to 64 replays for a 3 in a row. You can go from 16 replays for 4 in a row up to 200 for 4 in a row, or from 96 for 5 in a row all the way up to 300 for a 5 in a row. This game has the popular Magic Lines feature. In this case, they've moved back to the first 3 lines. This feature allows you to move the first 3 columns of numbers either up or down 1 position. If you move it up, then the top number rolls and moves to the bottom. If you move it down, the bottom number rolls and moves to the top. In this way, you can reposition the numbers to be more favorable and therefore earn difficult numbers like the center number much more easily, because the center number falls in the 3rd column. You can move things around. In this game, you have corner scoring for 300 replays, if you have that feature lit. There's also a 3 in line scores as 4 in line, if you have that feature lit. Those are awarded on a mystery basis, which means you have to put in more money in order for a chance to see those light. The big feature for this game, and this is one of only 2 games that has this feature, is the Magic Pockets feature. The Magic Pockets were the first 7 numbers on the bingo playfield. In the show notes, I'll attach a link to an image of the playfield, and you can see where 1 through 7 lie, but they are the top row of numbers. If you land a ball in one of those holes, and you have the Magic Pockets feature lit, you can push the left and right arrows to move the balls physically from hole to hole. It's a really cool thing to see in person. It's like playfield animation similar to backbox animation, where you've already shot and landed in these holes. Normally, there they sit until the game is over. In this case, you have 1 chance to move the balls to a more favorable hole. One of the more complex things to talk about with a Magic Pockets game is what the advantage can be. Aside from just moving the numbers so that you have 3 in a line when you didn't before, what else can you do with it? Well, if you have 2 balls which are not contiguous, so let's say you have the number 5 and the number 7. If you push the left arrow until what was in the number 5 is all the way in the number 1, then your other ball will be in number 3. If you push left again, the number 1 will stay in place, and 3 will move to 2. If you push left one more time, the ball that was in 2 will jump out and start traveling down the playfield. In this way, you can have all kinds of different strategies for utilizing that top row of numbers. But here's the difficulty. The only time that you have the opportunity to move these numbers is before you shoot your 4th ball. After that, you cannot move them. You cannot move them before. If you land in numbers 1 through 7 on your first ball, you can't use that Magic Pockets feature. If you don't have any balls in the Magic Pockets, you can't move them either. Both Gayety and its sister game, Gaytime, which I've spoken about before on the podcast, use a special detection circuit to figure out if there's a ball in holes 1 through 7. And it's fairly advanced and pretty cool. The main thing to know about these Magic Pockets games is that how it actually moves the ball is through a kicker. So if you've ever seen a game where the ball sits on a switch in the playfield and then kicks out of a little pocket, then you've seen what this does. But the difference is that on Gayety and Gaytime, these Magic Pockets games, there is a special claw that the ball sits on that extends out to the left or to the right. And again, it's really neat to see and really hard to describe. But it's very cool and fun to play. Gayety also spots numbers, and in my conversation with Jeffrey Lawton, he mentioned the trouble that this game caused on route. Proprietors didn't really understand, and some operators didn't really understand, that the spotted number was supposed to be spotting. Bally included no separate indicator that the number could spot. On its sister game Gaytime, the follow-up, Bally ended up putting the indicator right on the glass. So there's a little square that lights up that tells you if the spotted number is supposed to be spotted. But on Gayety, it'll just show up. Now this is similar to how 6-card spotting works, but for some reason it was confusing to operators. Jeffrey Lawton speculates that these games were not incredibly well received by players because of the Magic Pockets features. His thought is that the Magic Pockets actually made the game more complicated. You have to think an awful lot about how you can possibly turn that to your advantage. In the game's defense, the numbers which are the Magic Pockets numbers are actually blue circles instead of the standard white. And so you have an indication of where you can possibly move that ball, and especially with the magic lines moving up and down, things can get complex and pretty hairy pretty quickly. Now what I will say is that these games are incredibly fun. If you haven't noticed, I have kind of a pattern here. I'm starting to notice it myself the more I talk about these games. I like them very complex. I like the gameplay complex, and I like having to stop and think about what I'm doing. It makes the experience more enjoyable for me. I do occasionally, like a quick shooting game, and there are those as well, but games like Gayety or Gaytime require lots of thought. If you have that feature lit, you need to really think about what you're doing, or you'll wind up without an advantage. Now, in my mind, that's the best kind of game. That's a game where the designer really thought this through from a player's perspective. But, as Jeffrey Lawton said, perhaps they were not really well received because you had to think about it. And I'm sure en route, things are about 1,000,000% different than they are in my home environment, of course. And in many situations, you don't want a long playing game. You want something that's going to be a bit quicker. So perhaps that also spelled doom for this particular feature. The other thing that may have killed it is the expense. You have a solenoid on either side that kicks this claw over to the left or to the right, and that was probably pretty pricey. So, that said, Bally never stopped innovating with these games, and you'll hear that as the days progress. So, let's talk about artwork. Gayety, as you might imagine, is a game about happiness. So what makes you happy? Well, in this game's case, it's lots of dancing ladies, music, and curtains. So on the Backglass, you have disembodied hands playing instruments, large curtains with stars and the aforementioned instruments, and then several ladies in various states of excitement, and then many ladies dancing with parasols. Now, the advancing odds are written on the dancing ladies with parasols. Each is holding their skirt out to the side, or their dress. And the 5 in a row odds are written on the inside of the parasol. The Playfield has a couple dancing at the top, many ladies dancing somewhere in the middle, a lady playing the accordion in the center, a big band spread across the left and right side, and then a lady front and center. Musical notes and stars are strewn throughout, and it's a very colorful art package. Looking at the cabinet, we've got brown and yellow with gold paint for stars and musical notes. And the whole thing kind of is moving along on the wind. It's kind of swooshing across the cabinet, and it looks pretty cool. So this game, I would heartily recommend it, or its sister, Gayety. Now, I don't have any playing experience with Gayety, but I do have a lot of playing experience now with Gayety, and I've got to say, it's a great game. And Gayety, one of the few differences between it and Gayety is that it only has 3 columns of magic lines. Gayety has 4. But that said, again, I like a thinking game. I also like advantages. So, it's hard to choose. But if you have the opportunity to play one, I highly recommend it. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. Or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast. Or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.